In other international news, horrifying news, Hamas has now announced, as was suspected, that it would release dead bodies, 4 dead bodies. In exchange for these 4 dead bodies, Israel is going to release all Palestinian women and minors under the age of 19 who were detained in Gaza after October 8th and who, quote unquote, weren't involved in the fighting. But again, those are detentions. When they say under 19, you're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-old people. And recognize that in the Gaza Strip, for Hamas, those are like military age recruits. Many women are also involved militarily with Hamas. The bodies that are being released include the bodies of Shiri Bibas, who's 33, and her 2 children, Ariel and Kfir, who were 4 years old and 9 months old when they were kidnapped, not by Hamas. Okay, this is important. They were not kidnapped by Hamas. They were kidnapped by Palestinian civilians who joined in on the murder spree of October 7th. The reason this is important is because the great lie that there is a vast gap between the civilian population in the Gaza Strip and Hamas, that has always been a lie. It remains a lie. That does not mean that Israel and any other military power shouldn't attempt to distinguish between members of Hamas and civilians. Israel has expended hundreds of its own soldiers in efforts to do precisely that, which is why it's achieved such a signally successful kill ratio in terms of terrorists killed to civilians killed in battle. With that said, the civilians in the Gaza Strip supported Hamas. They supported the agenda of Hamas for a year. The bodies of a mother, a toddler, and a baby were held as hostages in the Gaza Strip, and not one Palestinian turned over information to the Israelis. While these people were alive, they were taken alive into Gaza. They were coming out dead. While they were alive, there was no attempt by any Palestinian to achieve their liberty. There was no attempt to shield them from the predations. In fact, they were held by civilians, as we know. Many of the hostages were, in fact, held in civilian homes. Just so you remember who these people are, here is a video of the kidnapping of Shiri Bibas and her toddlers. Okay, this is what Hamas is. This is who the people who celebrate Hamas and have sided with Hamas are. Human trash. The people who do this kind of stuff and who support this kind of stuff.
So I just got to my hotel in Toronto and I heard the news about the Bibas babies who have now been confirmed dead. And their dead bodies are going to be returned by Hamas tomorrow. And I know that from here on out we're going to hear every single excuse in the book that there should have been a ceasefire deal sooner, and there should have been a hostage deal, and there should never have been a war, and Jews should never have returned to the land, and what about the occupation? Everything. Except the one thing that this morally bankrupt world should have said on October 7th, which is that terrorists should not be kidnapping babies. And it is that failure. Just know. It is that abject failure to do the right thing, to say the one thing that needed to be said from the beginning. That is exactly why Hamas has benefited for the past 16 months and babies have suffered. Because for the past 16 months that you've been watching these protests out there saying, kill the hostages. Hamas, Hamas, we love you. We support your rockets too. Jews, go back to Poland. All of it, all of those 16 months was 16 months that those Bibas babies were underground in tunnels relying on you to be their voice. And where were you? Where were you? Where you were was saying, who are we to judge how a people resist? I'll tell you who we are. Who we are is society. We are quite literally the people who judge the standards of violence and morality. That is what we do. But you know what? Based on the past 16 months, maybe you aren't the people to judge. Maybe you are the people to be judged. Because if, as a society, we can't find it in ourselves to say the one thing that counts, which is that terrorists shouldn't be killing babies, and as a result of that failure to say the right thing, These babies, their bodies are coming home dead tomorrow. Just know that their blood is not just on the hands of the terrorists that kidnapped them. Their blood is on the hands of a failed society that is against everything except the terrorists that killed them.
Need any clarification about the horrors of the Middle East conflict and the absolute heartlessness, brutality and depravity of the terrorists of Hamas and their supporters, then it comes today in the form of an announcement from that bloodthirsty Islamist extremist outfit. Hamas says it will hand over the bodies of 4 hostages on Thursday, including the 2 youngest people held by the Palestinian armed group. Bodies to be released would include those of the Bibas family, Shiri, and her young children, Kafir and Ariel, who were aged 9 months and 4 years when Hamas kidnapped them during the 7th of October 2023 attack. So Hamas killed them. They are only dead because Hamas and its supporters considered that apart from slaughtering and defiling innocent men, women and children, it was also okay to take a mother and her 4-year-old and her 9-month-old sons, take these children hostage to keep them as human shields while they committed their atrocities and deliberately incited their horrible and pointless war. Now they trade the bodies of kidnapped children to get their own terrorists out of Israeli prisons. They can sink no lower. The actions of humans cannot be more hideous.
מחר יהיה יום מאוד קשה למדינת ישראל. יום מטלטל, יום של יגון. אנחנו מחזירים הביתה 4 מחטופינו האהובים, חללים. אנחנו מחבקים את המשפחות, והלב של אומה שלמה נקרא. הלב שלי נקרא, גם שלכם. וצריך שהלב של כל העולם יקרא. כי פה רואים מול מי יש לנו עסק, עם מה יש לנו עסק, עם איזה מפלצות. אנחנו עוד אוהבים, אנחנו כואבים, אבל אנחנו גם נחושים להבטיח שדבר כזה לא יקרה יותר.